The soldier fell to his knees in the middle of the street without warning. One moment he was standing in uniform beneath the open sky, the next his strength vanished, and the weight of years crashed down on him all at once. People slowed, cars stopped, conversations dissolved into uneasy whispers. No one knew whether to look away or step closer. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're re-watching from. I love knowing who's listening. His name was Daniel Harper, a U.S. Army Staff Sergeant home on leave after his third deployment. To the world around him, he looked composed, disciplined, unbreakable, the kind of man people nodded at with quiet respect. What they couldn't see was the invisible weight he carried, the memories that followed him home and refused to loosen their grip. The street was alive with ordinary noise, shoes tapping pavement, a bus sighing at the curb, laughter spilling out of a nearby cafe, and then Daniel's breath caught. The sound of a car backfiring echoed between buildings, sharp and sudden, and his mind was no longer there. His knees hit the concrete hard. The noise of the street thinned, as if someone had turned a dial. Daniel's hands trembled against the ground, his vision narrowed. He knew dimly that he was in public. He knew people were staring. But the war had reached up from memory and pulled him under. Someone muttered, "Is he drunk?" Another whispered, "Should we call someone?" No one moved, except her. Her name was Claire Bennett, and she had not planned on being brave that afternoon. She was on her way home from work, coat slung over one arm, mind busy with small worries that felt important until they weren't. She saw the soldier fall, saw the way his shoulders shook, and something inside her recognized the shape of that pain. Her brother had once come home, the same way, physically present, spiritually, somewhere else. She remembered the nights he sat awake, staring at nothing, fists clenched, as if holding the world together by force alone. Claire slowed, then stopped. The air around Daniel felt tight, brittle. People formed a loose circle, careful not to intrude, careful not to commit. Phones hovered half-raised, uncertain whether this moment was an emergency or a spectacle. Claire stepped through them. She knelt beside Daniel without asking permission, close enough that he could feel her presence, but not so close it would startle him. She didn't touch him at first. She didn't speak loudly. She simply grounded herself there, steady as the pavement beneath them. "Hey," she said softly, as if addressing a frightened animal, "you're not alone?" Daniel flinched, breath hitching. His eyes darted, searching for threats that weren't there. The past pressed hard against the present. Claire made a choice then, one that balanced on a thin moral edge. She could step back, call for help, let professionals handle it, or she could stay, risk doing the wrong thing, risk being judged, misunderstood, blamed. She stayed. "Look at me," she said gently. "Just for a second." His eyes found hers, not fully. "Not yet, but enough." "We're on Main Street," she continued, grounding him with facts. "It's daytime. You're safe. Can you feel the ground under your hands?" Daniel swallowed, nodded once. Around them, the street grew quieter. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even traffic seemed to pause, as if the city itself were holding its breath. People watched, unsure why they couldn't look away. Claire shifted closer and slowly, carefully, placed her scarf into Daniel's shaking hands. "Hold this," she said. "It's real. You're here." His fingers curled into the fabric. His breathing, ragged and uneven, began to slow. Seconds stretched, then minutes. A man nearby cleared his throat. "Do you know him?" he asked. Claire shook her head. No, the answer unsettled something in the crowd. This wasn't obligation, this wasn't duty, this was choice. Daniel's shoulders sagged as the tension drained inch by inch. The war loosened its grip. He drew in a long breath that didn't hurt, then another. Tears slipped free, unguarded, streaking down his face. He covered his eyes, ashamed of the display of the weakness he had sworn not to show. Claire didn't correct him. She didn't tell him to be strong. "You don't have to apologize," she said quietly. "You've already carried enough." That was the moment the street fell completely silent. No engines. Utter. Just the sound of a man breathing his way back to himself. When Daniel finally spoke, his voice was hoarse. "I didn't mean for this to happen." Claire smiled, small and steady. "I know." Someone began clapping, one soft sound, uncertain. It stopped almost immediately, swallowed by the gravity of the moment. Applause felt wrong. Stillness felt right. An older woman wiped her eyes. A teenager lowered his phone. A man in a business suit removed his hat without realizing he'd done it. Daniel pushed himself upright slowly, testing his legs. Claire rose with him, staying close in case he faltered. He didn't. "I'm Daniel," he said, voice steadier now. Claire. He handed back her scarf, hands no longer shaking. "Thank you," he said, and the words were heavier than they sounded. "You didn't have to do that." Claire shrugged, emotion tightening her throat. "Yes," she said softly. "I did." They stood there for a moment longer, two strangers bound by something neither had planned. Then life, tentative and respectful, began to move again. Cars rolled forward. Conversations resumed at lower volumes. The city exhaled. Daniel walked away with his head a little higher, the invisible load no longer crushing him to the ground. Claire watched him go, heart full and aching at the same time. She would never know how close he'd come to disappearing inside himself that day. And he would never forget the stranger who saw him not as a soldier, not as a problem, but as a human being in need. Because kindness doesn't vanish, it waits, and it finds its way back. And sometimes, the bravest moment of all happens not on a battlefield, but on an ordinary street, when someone chooses to kneel beside the fallen instead of stepping around them. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that compassion still matters. Leave a comment. Subscribe to Whispered Words. Keep listening, because these quiet moments of courage deserve to be remembered.